Riflemen, their job is to, in the role of infantry, is to take care of the closest immediate threat, but you're still a rifleman. If the target of opportunity for like what your target priority is as an auto rifleman, enemies in the open, in a fixed position, a machine gun nest. I mean, an auto rifleman in place other machine gunners, that's usually what they're for, so the infantry can move. Your priority of targets still can be the close-up targets because you're the auto rifleman. You're still a rifleman. So if you didn't have a machine gun or people out in the open, for example, and you had these two targets coming up on you, you would be like a normal rifleman and you would try to eliminate the closest threat. And then, but you're cognizant of looking for mass targets, or you're looking for an enemy mortar team setting up, things like that. That's what the auto rifleman's priorities are. So, but you're still a rifleman. So in this case, if they popped up and we're about to assault your position, you would take on everything that's in range, right? I'll probably eat all the brass out of this. It's dialed really well. Of course, this being the upper, but this is still obviously the closed bolt. It's not the original open bolt. This is just the Colt LMG upper. Of course, I need to eventually find all the parts to make it, you know, the open bolt variant that it was also offered in. But of course, the Danish, the Canadians, and a few other countries, they adopted it with the closed bolt, which is what this is currently configured as. Right. This is as far as Colt got until they messed around with the IAR concept in the early, mid 2000s.
My favorite part about that is like, all right, let's take the M16 that we've had for 20 years by this time, and how thick can we make the barrels? But how thick can we make the handguards?
Yeah, lay it on thick.
Yeah.
That's how they basically looked at it, was just make it thick.
M16 the world. If I don't get some decent grouping here, I'm just gonna close the whole channel.
Yeah, no, it's zeroed, so it's on you now.
I was pulling pretty hard right, but I think that was entirely user error. I'm gonna let Cody show me how it's done here because I'm not the belt-fitting machine gun guy. He's sitting there telling me, oh yeah, go ahead and put your elbow in the dirt too, why don't you? Instead of leaning all the way back. I'm like, well, that'd be the right way to do it.
These are pretty close, so we should keep them all on paper fairly well here.
If I don't have a bunch of lethal impacts there at this distance, then I'm gonna just pack it in.
Yeah, it's suppression, okay?
Yes.
It doesn't matter, a combat hit is a combat hit. Suppression is not always about making a hit.
Right.
Accurate suppression and everything is actually making people not want to do what they were doing. It's disrupting them. And that is just as valuable as putting rounds on target and maybe eliminating a target. It's making people not want to move, and if they can't do their job, then that's advantageous for you to do yours. We'll just go straight auto like you did. Yeah, I love how that rifle shoots. It's so heavy, it just doesn't move. The forward bipod has some advantages of like the lever push you can put in all the way at the muzzle does help muzzle climb, but you then have to have that big thick barrel. I mean, it's still a bull barrel all the way to the front. That's more weight you have to carry. So it's advantage and a disadvantage all at the same time. There is no free lunch when it comes to a lot of design. You either want it to do one thing really well or do the other thing really well, but trying to blend the two is not always that great. The barrel mounted bipod really does help, at least with how this design was set up to do, with really controlling it. I think this is the more desirable Colt LMG, the bipod all the way at front. It's dope.
And anytime that I've looked for these guns on Gunbroker previously, they were always the most expensive listings.
Yes, they're more desirable. So
just trying to even piece these together, like have you seen any sort of average pricing for what just the bipod goes for?
No, because you just never find it. Exactly. Like, a lot of people want to try to hybrid bipods from saws or something, but then you're making a lot of custom stuff and you're not clonering it. It's just these parts just don't exist in the country at the scale that everything else does. In the eyes of Colt, it was a massive failure. And since Canada was the only ones that adopted the auto rifleman in the LSW role, it was easier for Colt Canada to just take all that off the hands of Colt. That's where all that stuff lies, is trapped behind up north. So
I'll set up an import FFL and be the sole supplier of Colt LMG parts in the US. We're gonna go check my target out first. I think we already know the answer to this one. And considering that I was just doing little bursts of 5 rounds, and he's just holding the trigger down and hammering the target,
We'll see. So, I mean, sometimes you just walk in the fire at that point.
Confidence has been instilled. Knew it.
No, you killed it. You got 3 on there.
Homie still got murked.
When you didn't have your elbow supported, the recoil will ride up.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I was watching the front post going all the way to the left, and I was like, that was mostly why I was breaking up the rate of fire. I was like, I need to go back on target here.
I mean, those are good hits.
One of every 10 rounds fired there was lethal. As far as machine gunners go, I mean.
They wouldn't want to keep running at you. I mean, oh crap, we're getting assaulted. I probably missed a bunch. Yeah, so you kind of just aim at the belt buckle. Probably some advice I should have given you. To let the recoil run it up, but yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 28 on there. But I only had 28 in the magazine. That or I went through, oh, there's a double hole. I mean, at this range, that should be kind of expected. Getting behind the gun is really, really important. So let's get you dialed in a position that you're actually like putting your body weight all, what, 140 pounds of you?
Yeah, roundabout.
Yeah, same here. So if I can do it, you can do it, I promise. So no, let's get you on the bipod correctly here, and you'll see the major difference, and then you'll see the advantage of why they built it the way they did to do that job. And the more contact you can make the ground with your body, the better. And then you want to be putting weight into that bipod. And then you want to aim about where that red circle's at on his chest. So the reason why there's no forward assist, especially on all of these, is because they would have a slick carrier and they'd be firing from the open bolt. So there's no reason to have a forward assist because that would only impinge and hurt the thing. So these, of course, are completely void of the forward assist.
I love that they still have the machining marks right here.
Yeah, so it's just the original thing. They just didn't machine it out. They just rolled it over.
I don't think it was going to get better than that. Much more confident in that one.
Yeah.
Hey, honestly, for just holding down the trigger.
It's also the second mag you've ever fired through that thing. So, I mean, the thing is you definitely stayed more grip. Odds are you just kind of, you horizontaled it. This would have been much more effective.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, imagine those rounds all being here.
11 out of 30. I think a 30% hit rate is much better than I had before.
Yeah, I think it's 3 out of 30, you know, so yeah.
So as we're setting up the next segment of this, gonna move and shoot. I can't even see the black steel IPSC that's all the way in that little dirt patch right there in the center frame. And Cody's going to just show me where it is.
Yeah. Just over the shoulder.
No fucking way, dude. Oh, come on.
So, I mean, you can do it.
Well, that tells me that I need to stop staring at my phone as much.
Yeah.
Bro is Mr. Hit Steel at 800 with a standard 20-inch M16. That's just so comfy, dude. I find this carry handle setup very redundant.
Yes. There's a lot of ways to grip that gun.
It feels so silly.
You could do an LMG workout.
Yeah. All right, I'll top you off.
Whoever owned this had a house where they fucking smoked Marlboro Reds in it. It smells like Marlboro Reds, dude. Colt did a lot of things with the AR platform. Like, they were trying all sorts of stuff, and they have a lot of dead ends. Yeah. Of course, a lot of people now want the dead ends. You know, right. They did that. They're like, you know, the DOE carbines were very limited production, but everybody wanted one. PSA's making it. H&R has like been chasing really obscure Colts.
Yeah.
And everybody thinks that they were everywhere, but realistically, there's probably like 6 or 7 of them. This did make a lot more like quantity, right? Like, this actually was produced, but there was no commercial available. Like, nobody in the early 90s wanted a Colt LMG.
Yeah.
A few people had them. There's some on the registry.
And I assume the ones that are on the registry currently, or at least the largest share of those, would be the open bolt version.
Yes, they'd be the open bolt version, probably a carry handle, older Colts. There's not a lot of them now. A lot of ones that you see on the internet are guys like me with an SOT that have either converted one or parts one together over a period of time, or got the opportunity to get one and turn it on. This one is a closed bolt because it's getting the components for the open bolt are very difficult, and I haven't found them.
That is gassy, dude.
Well, I got it kind of turned all the way up.
Yeah, it's in my nose. I love the smell.
Gas down. Much better.
That's super cool. Turning down the gas becomes a rate of fire adjustment.
That's 100% why I use rifle speed also on
Yes.
on the LMGs, because you can slow that down or speed it up, which is quite handy. Everybody needs to keep in mind this is not a crew serve gun, but this looks cool on camera.
Exactly.
Yep, sweep it, lock it to the rear.
Yeah, that was way easier to do with a magnified optic.
Yes.
Way easier.
Kind of just sits there, doesn't it?
Oh, dude. With the lower rate of fire being way more controllable. Well, we'll take my lack of skill out of the variable here, but nonetheless, a slower rate of fire is making you fire less rounds. You can fire 4 longer. It's more controllable, and it's still a machine gun.
Yeah.
Like,
it's still going to suppress the target, and conserve your ammunition and be tighter grouped. When we dial these in, they'll sit on target. If we go up to like 300 yards, it's actually ridiculously scary how good it sits on target.
Dude.
Out to 500, we can hit that target quite a bit.
That's scary, dude. Honestly, I'm very happy that like you and Lima 6 are working on bringing these things to market, because the way that FRTs have become way more popular, and that more just being a stepping stone towards the actual end state that we're aiming for.
At the end of the day, it's still a belt-fed AR-15 upper. It's a semi-automatic and full auto-rated upper receiver, so it doesn't matter what you put it on. It's dialable. The concept of this is more like an RPD because it's a fixed barrel. It's not really a 249 saw where you have all the changing barrels, but it gives you that capability, as a civilian, pretty effectively.
I think especially as we've seen new platforms coming to market that far outperform something like this. Really the only reason that you and I are in this room having this conversation about this gun is because of history. It set the stage and precedent for manufacturers like you to be making newer, better versions of what this was originally trying to achieve, but now we have 60, 70 years of history in firearms development. And
materials, additive processes, ways to build things, machining capabilities have all increased, coatings are better. This is a really cool gun, but once you get behind it, and it shoots really well, but you can see that it had a limited shelf. It was going to have a limited shelf life, even as an auto rifle. Everything was going more M4, especially in the 80s, because then that's when a lot of the other countries that were adopting it were, it was getting closer to the 90s, and then we had flat tops. So you see, like, nowadays, you see a lot of these, if they're in service, it's with, like, the Dutch and Netherlands and Canada. They got flat tops, optics, but they started ditching some of these other features on there to save weight for the soldiers and all that other stuff. They got rid of the open bolt because the open bolt was kind of dangerous. Like I said, a good jarring can send it home, and, well, it's an open bolt. Yeah. Once it closes, the firing pin goes, poke, and bang. The Colt LMG had a lot of inspiration in building that. That's where the LMG moniker comes from. Yes, we know it's not a light machine gun. It's not a rifle. But that's where the namesake comes from, and of course it's adaptable with the rifle speed. It's got our heat mitigation system. All underneath that entire handguard is all the cooling systems that we've put in place to keep that system running cooler, longer, and safer, higher sustained rates. And we have our nice heavy barrel profile that's similar to what the Colt LMG is, but we have more of an M16 style front end out there, so you kind of save some of the weight. And then of course you have all your monitor accoutrement for the quad rail for your everything.
You guys have any key mod offerings?
No. It's off the shoulder, so you're fighting the wind a little bit. Ooh, much closer.
Come on.
That's a nice hit. Bong.
There we go.
Nice hit.
I figured it out. I needed to figure out where we're shooting.
Once you know where the wind's at and everything, we're just shooting 55 grain ammo. So I mean, it's going to be affected by the wind at 500 a little bit more than anything else, but it's effective.
There we go.
That one was a double. That's some pretty accurate suppressive fire, if you ask me.
Yeah, I mean, shit.
It's point suppression, still even out to 500.
What optic are we using on here? I wasn't paying attention.
That is a 5X prism,
okay.
micro prism from Primary Arms.
That's about as good as it's gonna get.
Yeah.
I mean, and
you can push this out to 700 still, it'd be very effective.
Yeah, certainly can imagine. I mean, even just kind of battle zeroing it there.
Yeah.
Against, you know, not having shot at this distance.
It's your first time on that gun.
Yeah.
And you're shooting at 500 yards.
And with a mild coaching here, I'm hitting this no problem. And I could definitely see pushing it out even further past that.
The reason why everything's the way it is, the weight it is, all that stuff, it's so you can do that job. Mm-hmm. You know, it's still a rifle, yeah, but it's more, it's designed and built to be that suppressive auto rifle roll.
Yeah.
With the gassing on it, and right now you're shooting the Optimus 6 flow-through can or reduced back pressure, I should say, from Griffin. I think you might be out of bullets there, buddy.
I did actually. That's funny. I didn't even realize it locked to the rear.
That's how smooth that is, huh?
Yeah. It is a 5.56. I mean, I'm not expecting to just feel like a chunk and lurch forward because I'm trying to anticipate recoil. It's planted in the ground with 3 points of contact already, not even including me on the gun.
And that rifle, as it sits with that onboard ammunition, you're about 14 pounds. It's not going to move.
Why do I feel like that was actually way more practical than it needed to be? This placement for walking and shooting versus this is honestly perfectly balanced too, as far as I'm concerned. Like, as balanced as it gets.
Yeah.
What a nice looking gun, dude. The profile of this firearm complemented with a C79 is just...
Oh yeah, when you put the big old L-can on these things, it's a sexy looking gun.
Yeah,
for sure. It's really cool. It will always have a place in my heart. I mean, the first time I saw this was in a diagram weapon book when I was 8. And I've always recognized the Colt LMG because the big square handguards, the big thick barrel, and the bipod mount. It's iconic, and if you know anything about M16 culture and stuff, it's really cool. You just don't see them very often. It was ultimately a flop for Colt, and then eventually Demaco Canada took all the production. That's pretty much where they're made these days.
All right, watch this.